Hello, anyone who has gone today. I am making this video to explain the assignment for over the weekend. So, go on to Dashboard, scroll on down to Unit 6 Exodus. You'll find two new files there. There's the directions and guidelines for reading questions worksheet, with a note that you should read this first before you download and complete this Exodus 15 through 17, 19 through 20, 23 through 24 reading questions worksheet. So, download the directions and guidelines for reading questions worksheet. If you open it up, it looks like this one. So the story goes, I hate busy work, but I want to make sure that people are comprehending the reading, working on the reading comprehension skills. So typically, I do quizzes that are short and to the point, right? Multiple choice. But to mix it up, I also created these things that are reading questions worksheets. The twist is that you will make the questions. You do not have to write the answers to your questions, but you'll be writing questions over reading assignments. So as you might have inferred from the title of the other worksheet, you'll be working on reading these chapters in Exodus and then creating questions over that material. And yeah, it's easy for me to grade, but it shows that you know the material if you can create a good question over that material. So the question then is, what counts as good questions? So that's what this directions and guidelines worksheet is for. So read every word on this thing before you start writing questions, and it'll tell you what you need to do. Yeah, the long and short of it is make sure that every question you have has a citation of the chapter that you're referencing. So how is the order of creation in Genesis 1 different than the order of creation in Genesis 2? Or you can even just put it in parentheses at the beginning or end of your question. You're going to write two different types of questions, content review and discussion prompts. Content review questions should be objective in nature and concise. So objective means that there's black and white, clear right answer and clear wrong answers, right? And you should be able to find that answer in the reading itself. Discussion prompt questions are going to be subjective. So this is going to be, instead of black and white, it's gray, right? People are answering from their personal experience, and there's no one right answer, right? Or there are many right answers. However you want to think about it. So for this assignment for Tuesday, you'll be writing 7 content review questions. Those are the short black and white ones. And then 1 discussion prompt question. Do not bother answering your own questions, but your content review questions should have a clear, objective answer. You just don't need to provide the answer. So I have some examples of bad questions, questions that aren't objective. Things like, why did the serpent tempt Eve in Genesis 3? We don't know. It's not in the text. It's a bad content review question because there's no possible answer, or like no one possible answer. Or why did God choose Moses to lead the Israelites? It doesn't say exactly like, and God chose Moses for these reasons. Therefore, it would be a bad question. A good question for content review would be things like, for Exodus, it would be things like, why was Moses as a baby put into a basket in the river? Or, yeah, like what was different about the 4th plague as opposed to the previous 3? It takes a lot of good comprehension of what's happening in order to answer that question, but also to even ask that question. So that's what we're going for with content review. I have some guidelines on the bottom too. No T-ball questions. So questions should require that strong comprehension of the material in order to answer. Avoid questions that require fewer than 4 words to answer. I call it a T-ball question because it's like perfectly set up and it's really easy to get it. So I have a bad question here. A T-ball question is, who tempted Eve? The serpent. It's so easy. Like, you don't even need to have a strong comprehension of the material to get that question. Another bad T-ball question would be like, who was the leader of the Israelites, or who was the leader of the Egyptian. Any who question is almost certainly a T-ball question. Or how many plagues were there? T-ball question. No trivia questions. So it should not ask about insignificant details. So that requires that you sort out the important stuff from the not important stuff. So a bad question, an example of a bad question because it's too trivial. What are the different rivers named in Genesis 2? There are like 4 rivers that are named, but it matters not at all to the action of the story, right? To know those names. From Exodus, a bad trivia question would be something like, what was the 5th plague? The fact that whatever the 5th plague was 5th, doesn't matter at all. Hey, Tiffany.
I'm sorry, am I interrupting something?
I'm just recording a video for people who missed class today. Yeah, I'm about to finish up if you want to hang around.
Yes.
Cool. So, yeah, no T-ball questions, no trivia questions, and then look for big picture details. Read those guidelines. For the other type of questions, discussion prompt, that's going to be, think about when you go on dashboard and answer those discussion forum questions. That's the kind of question you're going to make. So I have an example of a good one here. Basically, what experiences have you had of punishment? Have you ever experienced a good punishment? What makes a punishment good or bad? And then a bad question here. Would you have eaten the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil? Why or why not? It's an opinion question, so it's good in that way, but it's not personal enough, right? So to make this bad question good, you would change it to something like, Adam and Eve were tempted and ate the tree of knowledge of good and evil. What experiences have you had of being tempted to do something? What makes temptation easier or harder to deal with in your experience? See how you're forcing people to share about their personal experiences and their thoughts and go beyond just the opinion. Opinions are good, but make them go beyond that too. So, once you finish going through those guidelines, then you can get started on this thing. You're going to write 8 questions total. 7 are going to be content review, 1 per chapter at least. And then 8th question is going to be that discussion prompt question. The best discussion prompt questions from each block I'm going to take, and then each block will anonymously vote on which one they want to be their discussion board post for the next round of dashboard posts. The person who's the writer of that post can not, they don't have to write the discussion board post, basically. They are excused from writing a response to their own question, and they get full points as if they did write it, and they get a Travian for their awesome question. So, extra incentive there. It's due Tuesday. Let me know if you have any questions. Peace.